Hola, hola, hola. Hello, and welcome to a spiritual remedy conversation and meditation. My name is Sunshine Day, and I am your spiritual living coach. I see a world where clean and sober people are living their best life and loving it. So I provide the spiritual tools and loving support for your personal transformation. And that's because I want to be a part of a community that continuously awakens humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And that means that as you awaken, you help to awaken me. And as I awaken, I help to awaken you, that we are awakened to our truth and that we stop living the lie that we are separate from one another. Wow, can you believe that we are already in the second week of April and that, we are just plugging along here. Our theme this month is connectedness. And as I've been with this idea of connectedness and the definition of connectedness being a state of being joined or linked, and I think about our connectedness as people in recovery, as people who have decided that we no longer want to use chemicals or people, places, and things to alter the way that we feel, but that instead we want to deal with life on life's terms and not use these weapons of mass distraction that keep us blind from fully living our amazing, magnificent lives. That in a way, there are always these groups of people that come together and we feel a connection. And I think that's wonderful because, feeling connected, feeling a part of a group, feeling like you have a place to belong is important. And on top of that, it helps us in our strides in a recovery. And I think it's of utmost importance that we continue to grow along spiritual lines, that we continue to affirm our lives and to actually recognize that even without these particular groups or these particular clubs or tribes that we may belong to, that it is important to feel connected to the I am presence, that we are connected to all of life, that we're connected to that indwelling power, life, presence, higher power, Atman present, the prana. And that's really what I want to talk a little bit about today. And I'm hoping that you will join me in the conversation. Now, because I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts, your ideas, especially around connection. I know that people have felt so lonely and so alone. And I remember, saying once upon a time that alone needs one more L in there, because we are all one. Instead of ALONE, it's ALLONE, that we're all one. And that the moment that we recognize our connection, it is in that moment where we might be alone, but we don't feel alone, that we actually feel the oneness of all of life. I have had glimpse of that. I have had glimpse of feeling the oneness. I mean, just because I get to do these shows doesn't mean that I've arrived and that I am more advanced than anyone else. In me providing this, it actually helps me to expand upon these experiences for myself. But yes, I mean, there are times where I feel alone or even lonely. And what I get to remember is that I get to feel that. I get to feel what it's like to feel disconnected. I get to feel what it feels like to be an outcast or not accepted in a group, or sometimes like the odd person out. I mean, isn't it that way a lot in addiction, right? And in that, there's our family or our friends and they're living life, carefree. And here we are, in the depths and in the throes of addiction and feeling like, wow, what's wrong with me? How come I can't be like them? Or look at them over there. I wish I could be a part of that. And never really feeling connected, never really feeling our oneness with life. And, in recovery, there are lots of folks too who end up going to groups and doing certain things, and then they be like, but look at that clique over there and that clique over there, and look at this and that, and they just want to belong. I don't know. I too, just want to feel that sense of belonging. And what's important though is that we begin to feel that sense of connection with the indwelling power and presence, that we begin to feel our connection with God. Because the truth is that we're never disconnected from God. We only believe that we are. I mean, for me, what I believe is that, there was really no beginning. Beginning is actually just a concept of time, and time is a man-made construct. But if we call it a beginning in a certain point of eternal life, there's this power and this presence. Many people call it God. Many people call it life force, prana, essence, source. Whatever it is that we call it, we think that there was always that. And then that power, that presence created everything. And it could only create everything out of itself because there was nothing else, only it. Only this power and this presence, and it created everything out of itself. Therefore, my life is the life of God. Your life is the life of this eternal, infinite intelligence. And that because the stars and all of creation are made out of the same stuff, science proves it over and over again, that we are really connected, that we are really one. One of the things that the greatest lessons that COVID has taught me is this lesson of connectedness. Here in some small area in China where we probably have never even visited, some of us, or we don't even know the name of the town. I know I certainly don't, but something happened there. Something happened there. And that something continued to touch humanity and humanity and humanity and humanity, to the point where doctors and scientists called it COVID-19. And notice how what happened in a small place in China has now been throughout the world. Now, we are connected. Forget about 6 degrees of separation. We are indeed connection. So for me to hurt is for you to hurt. For me to hurt you is for me to hurt myself. For me to love you is for you to love me. And as I think about this virus and how this virus has swept the world, almost there's no part of the world that hasn't been directly impacted in some form or fashion. And even if we didn't get it, we've been impacted by it because we've had to stay at home and quarantine, shelter in place, be safer at home. We have been touched in some form or fashion by coronavirus, right? So what if, in fact, we began this love virus, this love train? What if we actually recognize our connection with all of humanity, and instead of something that actually destroys life, and instead that we actually are putting something out there that lifts life up? And what I know is that it has to start with me. And so the spiritual tools that I get to share with you today are just some real simple steps today that I want to share with you around feeling that connection and recognizing the connection to that power and presence within. Because once I feel it here, then it's easy for me to see and recognize my connection with you, who I think is out there. But really, you are my other me. You are my other me. Where's that poem? Here it is. I love this poem right now, and it reminds me of connectedness. I keep it right here on my wall, and it says, "Tú eres mi otro yo." In English, it says, "You are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y me respeto yo. I love and respect myself." I love that. That is the sense of connectedness. And that sense of connectedness is something that can be developed right here, right now, with some simple practices that actually take our attention and takes up a little bit of time. But in the long run, these small strokes fall great oaks. So this idea that we're separate, or that this group or that group is whatever, no, we begin to actually recognize that when it happens for one, it happens for all. So in this effort of connection and connectedness, one of the things that I want to invite you to do on a regular basis is just do a self check-in. Check in with yourself. What am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Is to actually begin to check in and connect. So much of our American time here in the US is spent in the mental, that we actually forget that we have a body. Sometimes, like our foreheads are all like big. The 4 is a 5 head instead of a 4 head is a 5 head, right? No, I'm joking. But so much of our time is spent in mentation instead of meditation, instead of just simply being. But how about if we check in with ourselves? What does my body feel like? Like, notice what your body is feeling. If you've been sitting in an uncomfortable position, if your eyebrows are all furled over because you're just thinking so hard, notice how close your shoulders are to your ears. Notice if there's any discomfort in your body. That's one way to begin to feel the connectedness. I recently, over the last several months, started yoga. And I had not been doing yoga because yoga was so much like meditation, but I actually found out that I was incorrect. I love it when I find out that I'm incorrect and there's new information that comes to me. You know, the practice of yoga is really the practice of my breath, the practice of being, but also being in my body and recognizing that these various poses, that it's not the thing, you know, the poses are the poses. I don't have to be an expert at the poses. I just get to be an expert of my own body, of my own consciousness, of what it feels like to be in that particular pose and to be present with my breath, you know, and to notice if I try to escape into some far, far off land or fantasy land, or if I'm in my adolescent mode, or am I fully present in my body, fully being, just feeling that sense of connection. You know, we talk a lot about the mind, body, spirit connection, and where my mind is now connected with my body, and my spirit, meaning that life force, is also that perfect equilateral triangle, right? That I am fully my mind, I am fully my body, I am fully my spirit, and feeling that connectedness. Now, the other thing in your check-in is to notice the tone in which you speak to yourself, your self-talk, and to notice the tone in which you're speaking with others. Because if I want to be connected to myself and I am bad mouthing myself and I have lots of negative self-talk going on, believe me, part of me wants to run away from the part of me that is being so negative and so judgmental. And so this is like, I don't want to be around that. But it's also true with watching my tone with others. My mom used to tell me, you can get bees, you know, attract bees with honey and not with vinegar. Not that I wanted to attract any bees, right? And the bees are actually part of producing that honey, right? But I didn't want to attract any bees. But the point of it all was simply that in the tone, in my kindness, in my authenticity, in my love, in my compassion, that I am actually attracting the connectedness more than I am when I'm being self-righteous, judgmental, pointing the finger at you and not recognizing that these other three are being pointed back at me. The sense of connection, connectedness is really about me relaxing and letting go. It is about me practicing the 3 S's. Right? Slow down, stillness, silence. It's about me taking those moments and taking that moment to do that, to be there, to feel my connection, to check in with my mind, body, spirit, to make sure that they're all connected, that I'm operating as a whole and complete person instead of just a mental person, or instead of just a person of the body, or even instead of just being that spiritual person that is, you know, so spiritual that I'm no earthly good. It makes no sense to be more of one than the other, but it makes sense to have that whole mind, body, spirit connection and that connectedness. The other thing that I want to say before we take a moment in the stillness and the silence ourselves is is become aware this week of what we might call coincidences or synchronicities. Pay attention to those hunches and that intuition and see if it's rather that it's being like a lucky guess, that it's actually because you're allowing yourself to feel the connectedness and your connection to all of life. I tend to believe that we downplay times like this, that we just call incidents, when it's really we've allowed ourselves to fall deep into this place of our I am presence and in our oneness with God. I like to think about it too when, when we meet other people on the path of sobriety and other folks who are laying down the weapons of mass distraction and mass destruction, drugs and alcohol and, all of those things that keep us separate from our true selves. As your spiritual living coach, I want to invite you now to enter into a time of stillness and silence. We're just going to do this for a few moments. So we're going to slow down. We're going to be still, be silent. If you're driving, please disregard this and just listen. But don't try to close your eyes or anything like that. I want you to get to wherever it is you're going safely. For those of you who are already in a spot, just gently close your eyes. And as you bring your attention to your breath, just recognize how close you are to your breath. That's connection. I'm reminded of a Ricky Byers song that said, I used to think that I needed somebody. All I needed was my connection with God. And the truth is, we're never separate from God. We're never separate from that I am presence. It is indwelling. It is who and what we are. But we forget that and we fall into the individual I instead of the I am with a capital I. A capital I am. So as we're just in this sense of quiet and stillness, what I want you to recognize is that there are no coincidences or synchronicities. When those things happen that seem effortless, remind yourself, the thoughts that I think are the thoughts of the I am within. The thoughts that I think are the thoughts of the I am within. Remind yourself by saying, I enjoy my unity with all life. I enjoy my unity with all life. There is nothing that separates my life from the life of God. My life is the life of God. I deepen my awareness that I am connected to all life. I am one with all life. When it happens for one, it happens for all. God is living me right now. You might even try, God is living as me right now. And of course, one more time, my life thrives as I know my connectedness. So, beloveds, I invite you now to simply open your eyes from the sense of connection, from the sense of connectedness, and see if you can look around you and notice the connection of you with the things that are surrounding you. We are indeed all connected. We are indeed all one. And what I want to share with you is that in just the next few days, actually, on the 19th and the 20th, I have new groups starting. They're called Spiritual Growth Circles, because here we are. Are you willing to grow along spiritual lines? Are you ready to have the spiritual tools that transform your life? Are you ready to be in a small group that provides loving support? Are you ready to have your life changed? So in the month of April, May, and June, my spiritual living circles are going to be starting. And I'm inviting you to step forward and invest in yourself. If you haven't done so already, now's the time to simply sign up for one of the groups that is going to be to the best time, the best day and time for you. Take a look at the website, and take a look right now at what it is that I'm offering you. Spiritual growth circles. These are designed with you in mind. As your spiritual coach, I'm just inviting you to give yourself this opportunity to grow, giving you this opportunity to really utilize some spiritual tools so that you might indeed experience your amazing life. Well, know that you are loved and supported, and that I am here for you as your spiritual living coach and as someone who lovingly supports your amazing journey. Until next week, know that you're valued and loved. Bye for now.
Celebrate life. You celebrate your life. Celebrate the memories, the birds and the trees, the hugs and the kisses, the hits and the misses.
Don't wait till it's too late.
Don't wait till it's too late.
Love and appreciate.
Love and appreciate.
Show them that you care.
Show them that you care, and you'll always be there.
Yeah.
Celebrate life. Rejoice, rejoice. 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 Celebrate life. joys of